the next questions and the next series of questions that I might have for you, or I do have for you. And actually that is talking about the geopolitical situation. But not only just the geopolitical situation, but also talking about the tariffs that, President Trump has already announced once before that he was going to put that on. Had we had this conversation maybe last week, this whole thing would have been taking a different turn and we would be talking about something totally different. But now I really want to focus on the positive outcome of what had just happened in the last couple of days. Obviously, even yesterday, when we had President Trump in the region, and he's talking about the geopolitical situation, talking about lifting the sanctions off of Syria and stopping the Indian-Pakistani war. Trade with China is going to be a little bit more smoother, and it's going to be a lot, less fighting back and forth, at least for the next 90 days. We also talk about Lebanon possibly going into another phase of maybe even peace in the region and all of that stuff. Extending the Abraham Accord to many countries, as President Trump was talking about last couple of days. What does that mean for a company like SolitAir? And how do you see this be a vision or maybe success in the very near future, a lot faster than you had actually hoped and anticipated in the past maybe month or so?
Well, Joe, I'm one of the lover of history. And as a matter of fact, most of my team members, all in the induction, I use the, Alexander the Great, as the one of my heroes of all time, due to the fact is, and I use also a couple of other heroes that
like Joe Beydoun, for instance.
Yeah, and people who really I admire over the years for what they have done in history. And to have a young man up to the age of 32, 33 years old can capture almost 1/3 of the world, with the power and everything back in 356 BC. And after the World War I and II, and what happened to the world and how things happened and how Europe got built and how country built their economy and the economic situation and all that. So if I take the trend of Dubai 5 years up, 5 years down, 5 years up, 5 years down, and I use that all across the world and all that stuff, business is always in growth. And the growth can drop from 15% or from 20% down to maybe 10% or 5%. But it's always growth, and it's always going in the right direction. And with the heavy changes that we see in the world with AI now, and so every other year, if you take it from early 1900 to now, more of things have changed. Who can believe today you can be able to talk to somebody, a loved one far away, and you can look at them and they can look at you, and just in time and all of that. Okay, 20 years ago, you wouldn't even dream to think of something like that. So things are moving so quick, so fast. So is our industry. So with the geopolitics, time has come. It could not be worse than what we saw in the last year. The whole region, and even until last week, the whole region was about to go on fire. There is not a country without another country without in parts. If I do patch, if it's Africa, there's problem. In Asia, there is problem. In Europe was problem. So there is problem everywhere. Now, hopefully, we get into time of our life, maybe when all these things will slow down. I'm not going to say we're always going to live in a perfect world, but always going to be lesser and lesser and people are going to look at the bright side of things. I'm a positive person, and as a result, I always look at the glass full, not half full, not half empty. The glass is full. With that in mind, I can see nothing but bright future for our young generations. And what I see today, this generation, I hope just to learn 1/3 of the older generation to be able to make sure their feet are still on the ground. Because right now, they're all in the cloud. And I want everybody to understand, what I do understand is cloud, when you say things in the cloud, they must be tied to cable in the ground. Everything in the cloud is based in cable in the ground. So the ground is us, people with the wisdom, people with the knowledge and the experience combined together. And that's hopefully will help the new generation not to get to the crowd and forget about the land and about the cave.